Have you ever opened up the Bible and just felt lost? Like you're staring at a giant 1,000-piece puzzle with no picture on the box? Well, today we're going to look at a really simple but honestly powerful framework from the book Eternal Clarity. The whole idea is to make sense of it all by focusing on just two key distinctions.
So the author, Lucas Kitchen, kicks things off with this fantastic analogy. Picture this: you sit down at a restaurant and they hand you a menu that's literally 1,000 pages long. You're overwhelmed, right? But then the waiter just says, don't worry about all that. It's really just beef or chicken. I mean, it leaves you feeling confused, maybe even a little bit suspicious, like you're missing something important.
He gives this a name, the one option method. It's this idea that every single verse, every story, every command, it's all pointing to just one thing, whether you're eternally saved or eternally condemned. Now look, that's obviously super important, but when you try to apply it to everything, it can make the Bible feel really convoluted, almost like a dozen different recipes were all just scrambled together into one.
So this kind of one-size-fits-all approach seems to be where a lot of the confusion comes from. And it really makes you wonder, right? What if there's a better way to actually read the menu?
Well, according to this framework, there is a better way. And the key isn't to add 100 more complicated rules. No, the answer is surprisingly simple. It all boils down to just two fundamental distinctions. And once you get these, they can bring a ton of clarity to the entire text.
And here they are, the two eternal distinctions. On one hand, you've got belief for eternal salvation. Think of this as your destination. It's about where you're going. On the other hand, you've got a believer's obedience for reward. This is all about your experience and what kind of reward you get when you arrive. Just separating these two ideas, that's the core of this whole framework.
All right, let's break down the first one. This is all about securing your eternal destination. This is that beef or chicken part of the menu we talked about. The one option method gets this part right. It is absolutely critical.
Now pay close attention to the words the author uses here. Eternal salvation is defined as a free and irrevocable gift. Key words, right? It's something you receive the moment you believe. It's not something you earn through your actions or by being a good person. It's a gift, and it locks in where you'll spend eternity. So think of this first distinction as a one-way street. A person starts out as a never believer, but at the exact moment they believe in Jesus for eternal life, boom, they cross over and become an every believer. And that status, being eternally saved, it's permanent. There's no turning back.
Okay, so let's move on to the second distinction, because this is where things get really interesting. This one is totally different because it only applies to people who have already taken that one-way trip we just talked about. This is exclusively for believers. This is about your reward, not your salvation.
And this is the crucial point. Look at the chart. A believer's status is always eternally saved. It doesn't matter if they're obedient or disobedient at any given moment. That status doesn't change. But their actions, their obedience, that directly impacts their outcome when it comes to eternal rewards. An obedient believer is positioned for a great reward, while a disobedient one could suffer a loss of reward.
And here's the other big difference. Unlike salvation, this is a two-way motion. A believer can move back and forth between obedience and disobedience all throughout their life. You know, you can have good days, bad days, maybe even good years and bad years. Your actions are always affecting your potential reward, but they never, ever affect your final destination.
So here's where it all comes together. Distinction number one, the requirement is simply belief. The result, salvation. For distinction number two, the requirement is a believer's obedience, and the result, reward. The author is crystal clear on this. A lack of obedience in the second category can't reach back and cancel out the belief from the first. They are two separate things.
Okay, so why is this two-part framework such a big deal? Why does separating these two things actually matter when you sit down to read the Bible?
Well, it matters because first, it just brings so much clarity. It helps you sort verses into categories. You can ask, is this talking about my salvation, or is it talking about my life and rewards as a believer? That separation gives you this incredible assurance, because your eternal destiny isn't riding on your daily performance. And you know what? It encourages you to live a godly life, not out of fear that you might lose your salvation, but from a place of wanting a deeper relationship and a greater eternal reward. So I'll just leave you with this question from our explainer today. The next time you come across a passage that seems confusing or challenging, just try running it through this filter. Ask yourself, is this about my eternal destination, which is already secure through belief, or is this about my life as a believer and the rewards that are tied to my obedience? How does making that one simple separation change everything?